Manchester's real glory was a continuum of first-class rock and roll.
Beckham into Sheringham and Solskjaer has won it!
We rehearsed this whole big introduction where I was going to pretend that I was in the studio all by myself, which may have been more productive as Jay's completely ballsed up the production already. Come back, James Young, please. Start you mean to go on.
Yes. Sorry about that, bro. I messed that up. Apologies.
So producer James went to Wembley yesterday and he's woke up this morning with food poisoning, which seems a little bit suspect if you're cynical. I think he's definitely got food poisoning and he wasn't drinking too much last night at all. Jay, you were at Wembley, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was at Wembley. Good day, all in all. Not the most exciting game, I'm not going to lie. But in terms of the result, that's all that mattered, really, isn't it? It's just it's about getting that result, and now we can all worry about the final and the fact we've got to face some team called Manchester City.
Yeah, I watched the watch along yesterday with the lads in Stretford Paddock, and it was a hard sort of 120 plus minutes to get through. The penalties were great, but I was a bit cynical during the game, saying that it wasn't a great performance. But if you look at the team that we put out, and they were really running on their last legs, and the fact that we've come up against the Brighton side that had, I think, one of the best attacking rates in Europe, wasn't it, that they had? Yeah,
I think it was. I think it's well, they're a good side, aren't they, Brighton? We know that, don't we? Yeah. They've got like you say, they've got good attacking players. They've got a really good midfield as well. So I'm not sort of taking that for granted, to be honest with you. I think that result, I know it wasn't great, but it's one of those where I think actually they were favourites by a lot of people.
They were favourites for the game, yeah.
Yeah, so you think about that, they're favourites. We got a result away from home. We've not been great either, have we? To be honest with you, our record away to even the decent sides away from home isn't great. I know it's a neutral stadium, so it's slightly different, but it was one of those. As the game wore on, I actually began to think we can win this because we didn't start off too great. But then, as penalties approached, you feared the worst, didn't you?
I was the opposite, to be honest. I thought when it went to penalties, and I was more confident that we'd win on penalties than in the 120 minutes of football. But like you said, Brighton are a really good team. They've got one of the best sort of attacking stats in Europe. And that we put out a makeshift defence of three full-backs and a Victor Lindelof, who's the third choice centre-back at the club, and they didn't manage to score a goal. I thought Lindelof particular, and Wan-Bissaka had a great game yesterday, and I think that goal's, I think it's overlooked somewhat.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing is, right, these are good players. These are players that finished, second in the league not long ago. I know obviously time moves on and you can't just keep going, a few years ago we finished second, but they are capable of playing well. And I think that a lot of them, when they've been given a chance under Ten Hag, have stepped up. Not everyone has done that, but the players are talking about, you mentioned Lindelof, you mentioned Wan-Bissaka. And I think a big thing with Lindelof for me is who's playing alongside him.
Yeah.
I think if he's got a decent player alongside him, or a decent defender, alongside him, like he did have with Luke Shaw, who at left centre-back just seems to have slotted into that like he's been doing it his whole life, which is really weird because he hasn't, obviously. Then he can perform well, and it's good to see that as well because players like Victor Lindelof, if you just talk about him for a minute, there's not a lot to dislike about him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? He always gives his all. He's not one of those that moans or you ever have any issues with. He comes in at right back in times. He comes in at centre back. He's dropped for a while. He brought back in, and he's just sort of good on his pro. Who's probably, if we're being brutally honest, not at the levels we were hoping for when we got him from Benfica. I think we thought we were going to get a sort of, a Ruben Diaz type centre-back signing from Benfica who's going to come in and push us towards the title. There was even talk, I think he was thrown under the bus a bit, because there was talk, I think, Charlie Austin said, we were in for Van Dijk, but we chose Lindelof. Yet, I've never heard anyone who's proven that.
Yeah.
Other than Charlie Austin. I've never spoke to anyone or heard a report from someone I really rate or value saying that United were in for Virgil van Dijk. I don't know where that's come from.
That's
other
the
than
first
Charlie
time
Austin.
I've heard it you telling me, to be honest. I've never heard that rumour before that we were actually in for it. I was gutted when we didn't get him. I mean, but if you look how much he's fell off a cliff recently, he's not much better than Harry Maguire. But yeah, Lindelof in terms of form, and I wonder if De Gea suffers from this a bit, because when you're in that position of defence or goalkeeper, there's a lot of trust that you've got to have for the players around you. And you've got to wonder how much is actually going through the heads of the players that are playing around sort of Harry Maguire. I don't want to shit on him because, he's a human being at the end of the day. But I just think there's so many errors, and the performances of those around him when he is in the team. You've only got to look at Seville for another example of that. And everyone's there's a lot more sort of cautiousness that's going on because they're expecting him to make a mistake. Can I give him this ball? Is he gonna mess it up? And then you can't have that at the top level.
No, you can't. And this is the thing now. We've got to look at where we want to go as a team and as a club, because very good or good most of the time isn't good enough now.
No. Like,
you're right, and you've been talking about it for a few years. You were talking about going back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer time, about the basically a ceiling with how far we could go with him. And me and you went back and forth quite a few times because I thought there was a chance that he could almost learn on the job, which I know sounds ridiculous in the cold light of day now. Nobody denying it. There's video evidence of me sort of suggesting that Ollie can improve as a coach and learn his craft, and it wasn't going to happen, was it? And it pains me to say it, but especially when you saw what Liverpool and City were doing around that time and kicking on and raising the bar and 100 points and 98 points, and was Ollie ever going to get to that level? No. But I think if we are going to achieve that, and I think this manager's capable of it, then you've got to have players who can drop 8s and 9s. Not every week. Every player has a 7 or even a 6 or whatever. But by and large, are going to give you sort of solid 8 out of 10 performances. And we had too many players who give you 8 out of 10 once every month. And then we'd struggle. And I think it was the sort of biggest example of that was the derby. We'd go away to the Etihad, and you'd get all excited because we'd win, and you'd go, well, look at this, we beat City, yeah, we're amazing. And then we'd lose the next week at home to West Brom or something.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, actually, no, because the best teams, and the same with the best players, what makes you world class, what makes you great, is you do it every week. I've seen David Bentley score an hat-trick against United, and you think, well, score a hat-trick against United, you're world class. Was he doing that every week? Was he scoring hat-tricks every week? Was he in it every week? No. Roy Keane was, that's what makes it great. But anyone can do it not everyone, but lots of players can do it 1 in 5 games or 1 in 4 games. Or the reason you win trophies is because you've got players that can do it week in, week out. And I think in some of our players we've got that. Lisandro Martinez has got that in him. Unfortunately, I know he's injured at the moment, but I think he's got that ability to play well every week. Varane's got it. I'd argue that Casemiro didn't have his best game yesterday, but he's got it. Even to a lesser degree, Marcus, in terms of goals anyway, has got it to produce something every week. I know sometimes his performances can tail off a little bit, but he can get you a goal or assist every week. Bruno's the same, he can get you something and perform. So it's just about getting other players around that level. And I think one of the big issues is that squad thing, innit? Because you look at City, they've got injuries, or they've they can give Phil Foden 2 months off. I know we did it with Sancho, but it's a bit different. And not really feel it. No,
I mean, I watched City the other week, and I think Haaland was injured or dropped, and I think they played one of the best games that they played all season, and then he can come back in and then bag a hat-trick. So there's a huge difference in terms of the squad depth between United and City. Are you excited for a final? Are you sort of bricking it from as soon as the final whistle went yesterday?
Well, I am excited, right, because I'm infant-like in my approach to finals and games, and I get just giddy and like, we'll do him. I was leaving Wembley last night shouting, well, bring them on them. we'll do them. And people were hugging and agreeing, but obviously that's just euphoric nonsense. Like, no disrespect. So everyone who joined in, but you're on a high. And then when you sort of think about it, you're like, actually, it's a tough one. I need to ask your advice, actually.
Yep.
Because you are my sort of, I'd say, life mentor.
Life mentor?
I think, yeah. I've known you for a little while now. And during our time together as friends, I've started a family and I've quit drugs. And I think that's down to you, basically. So...
How the roles are reversed.
Yeah. This, right, Scotty, is the most important question. Not just I'm going to ask you, but anyone is going to ask you in your life, right? I know you've got a lot going on, and you've got a family, and you get asked a lot of questions. You've got a big question, but this is it, right? This could decide the future of basically my life. Do I take my son, if I can get a ticket, obviously, to the FA Cup final against Manchester City? Now, I want to give you some context to this, because as I like to say, context is key. He's 7. He loves United. Like, he cries when we lose, like his dad.
Yeah.
He's over the moon when we win. But he's 7 years old. You take him to Wembley, and early now and does something stupid, like scores an hat-trick, and City beat us 6-0. I don't know how staunch his support of this club is as a 7-year-old. And if his first experience at Wembley is going to be watching Manchester City turn his team over. No, I'm saying that's going to happen. I'm asking, I'm just putting it out there. It could affect him in his future support.
Yeah, I always wonder whether you're supposed to, as a parent, do you prepare kids for life, or do you protect them from it? It's a difficult decision. I mean, my first game was United versus Southampton in the FA Cup, and we got beat on penalties at Old Trafford. I think Alan Shearer scored. I think Giggs might have missed a penalty that night. But I carried on going. It's going to be a hard road ahead. I don't think United are going to be like dominating anytime soon on the football front. So, get him used to it. Life's tough, man.
Can I ask you a question now?
Yeah.
Were you schoolmates with any Southampton fans?
No.
Were Southampton did they go on and win a treble that season?
No.
So
you're worried about like him going to the dark side? Is that?
Yes. I'm not bothered about him being upset.
No.
He's a tough lad. He's grown up in Earlham and Eccles. He's got a bit about him. He goes boxing once a week. What more do you want? But I can't criticise him because he's only a little. But it could be easy. I mean,
I just blame the parents, to be honest. You're both Reds in that house. There's no way you can come home from school saying I want to be a City fan. What sort of dad would you be if you allowed that to happen?
That is true. I mean,
just ground him.
We could do a sort of regime where, we're not feeding you until you support United. Yeah?
Yeah,
is that legal?
Think so.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Name the 1968 European Cup winners' names from 1 to the subs, and then you can have your tea. Can't do it, bed. That's what
I think that's a great approach as
yeah,
parenting.
I think so.
I'm all for that. Like, listen, no, you're wrong. It was Tony Dunn.
Yeah.
Call yourself a red.
Yeah.
Get out of this house.
Just let me have some peas.
We've got a few comments.
Good stuff.
So we'll get into them. King Dino says, Victor has been brilliant in the absence of Martinez. In the absence of Varane and Martinez. He's just hampered by Maguire. Also on the Virgil van Dijk front, Ed says, we were interested in speech marks, inverted commas, after his first season at Southampton, but nothing formal ever happened. It doesn't help, does it, when you link with a player or you're looking at a player and you play them and he gets torn apart the way that Martial tore him apart in that first game. It's not going to make you think, well, he's someone for us. Santa Notch, always great to see Santa Notch in the chat. If you ever watch Stretford Paddock on our pre-match build-up on a watch-along, we ask people to send in score predictions. By all means, if you're a fan of Stretford Paddock, please do. Film it in landscape, 30 seconds, score prediction. Santa Notch, it's like a little mini-film. It's amazing. Have you ever seen his score predictions?
Yeah, I watched them.
They're brilliant. They've got special effects and everything, and they're hilarious. So, yeah, big fan of Santa Notch, or Notch, as he's known. He says, yesterday was never going to be an easy game and really showed how thin the squad still is, especially when they're having less rest time than the clubs we play. Daniel Gray says, evening, producer Jay. Also, Ed said, someone give me context. Why is Jay in the cupboard? James out for a poetry slam or something?
No, James was out for a piss-up yesterday at Wembley. or as he says, we got a text this morning saying that he's very poorly with food poisoning. Jay and I seasoned with the game of excuses as to not returning to work. And if you're going to do it and you're watching, James, I hope you are, then you know, food poisoning isn't going to lie, because that was probably the first one that we rolled out at the age of 16, wasn't it, Jay? You know.
Yeah, and we pushed the boundaries.
What was the worst excuse you've ever give to not going to work? Mine was someone dying.
Yeah, I went through oh God, do you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this on. I went through a few grandparents until it became mathematically impossible for me to have lost that many grandparents. I
went to Wembley when my nana died.
Right.
She died like 2 years before that nana. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's what she would have wanted, so that's not, do you know what I mean? There was what?
Or the case of diabetes that no one knew I had when I was hungover one day. I said, my diabetes is rough. You know, I had diabetes, David. Yeah,
I don't like to talk about it. No. It's private. It's personal. It's internal. I've had a few. I can't remember. There was loads. I remember once using the excuse that I used the excuse once that I was ill because I got nicked.
Right.
And the warrant officer came round because I'd not been to court when I was met. I was only for trivial things. So I'd spend the day in the court cells. Good old Trafford magistrates. And it's shut now. Game's gone. So that was fine. And then another time when I worked in telesales, I used the excuse that I got arrested. And they loved it.
You getting arrested as an excuse?
Yeah. So I did it. When I was actually arrested, I used the excuse I was ill because it was a better calibre of a job and it wasn't somewhere where they'd take too kindly to me ringing in sick for being nicked. And then another time when I was at another job, I said, I couldn't come in tomorrow. Sorry, I got nicked. Oh, right, no worries.
Did they not even ask any questions as to why you got nicked?
No, I don't think they were. I think they were like proud of me.
Were they?
It was. I don't want to cast aspersions on this company, but they're in a temporary office in Hardwick. You know the drill.
Okay, yeah.
You know the drill.
Yeah,
bro.
I've worked in one of them.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
I think that was actually the job before I started working with you.
I imagine you probably were the third person that day that phoned in and said they got nicked that week. Cops have had a busy one.
They had like a company lawyer that you could use.
Yeah.
You didn't ring legal aid, did you? Hey, we've got someone here for you. Take this card with you. Keep it with you at all times. Yeah, I mean, when me and you worked together though, did we wag work a lot?
No, I think just turned up wrecked quite a lot of the time, or from the night before and stuff. Because
we
used to go out. We'd do a 12-8, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And then we go out to bars and to various institutions
bars,
in Manchester
man.
that no longer exist because they were full of squalor and seed and a lot more stuff. And
do you
then
remember
going to work still a bit merry the following day?
Do you remember bars? Wasn't it £1.50 for
get
a pint? Not a bottle and shot. Yeah. Mate, go out on 15 quid and get absolutely blottoed.
Yeah. The booze wasn't the problem.
No,
that wasn't the expense.
No, it was. So, yeah, the booze cost 15 quid. It was what else we spent cost like 150. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, I did leave under a cloud. I think you left in a good circumstance, didn't you, when we worked together? But I left.
Didn't you just backdoor it when you went to Greece?
Well, I blame them because they paid us 2 weeks in arrears and 2 weeks in advance. So in my infinite wisdom, I worked out that if I just left 2 weeks into the arrears, I'd get paid in advance.
Yeah.
And then so I went to Somalia.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and you came with me. Well,
yeah,
not with me, but
I went on like a booked holiday to Somalia, and then seeing you over there, thought he's having the time of his life. I'm not going back. Why should he have all the fun? I'm not going back answering calls.
But then the joke was on them because everyone got laid off anyway. So
did they?
Yeah, they moved it
to India, didn't they?
Yeah, they moved the call centre. They outsourced it, or not outsourced. They moved it to overseas. So everyone lost a job, which, you know, if anything, we were ahead of the game. Brian Casey says Notch is a paddock legend. Santa Notch says, "Ha, they don't take long to make. Just a laugh. Cheers, Jay." Well, they look like they take long, which is a good thing. Wow, Jim Mack. This is a bit dark. I once found a dead person in my bath, and I had to call in work to say I wasn't coming in.
That was the excuse that he gave.
I don't know. I don't know if it's true
found a dead person in the
if
bath.
he did. Yeah, let us know, Jim. What's the
far too much intrigue?
Context behind that? Come on, we need to know. Miss Man United, my better half, says if he goes to the dark side, he's on his own.
Ooh, I've got a present for Miss Man United tonight.
Yes.
on the way to you.
Look at that, eh? She'll be buzzing about
Anybody else
that.
out there? It's out tomorrow.
Yes.
To purchase it. If you're a United fan, we've got people like Jay Motty's in there, Andy Mitten, Steve Armstrong from the Bandit Bus. Who else? Did they say Steve? Then Steve Howson.
Steve Howson. Your mate Nathan's in there, isn't he?
Glazer's in there, Cantona, loads more stuff. But yeah, Laura, as long as your rougher half coughs up 15 quid, then he'll be bringing a copy home for him.
Yeah. Varney, if you're watching, can you send me 15 quid to bank account? You know the drill. What's the scripts actually? With the event on Thursday, was there any tickets
so we're doing
left?
a book launch, me and Jay, on Thursday night in Waterstones. I think there's 6 tickets left. I think there's 120 on sale altogether. And I'm going to be doing some book signing. Jay's going to be doing like a live Scotty and Motty show, I imagine.
Yeah, man.
I asked Jay the other day, have you got any questions prepped? He said no. So do you want me to do them for you? He said yes. And I was doing it like in a thought. I thought you were going to reply, Jay, like, no, don't be daft. I've got you here.
Right, listen. You know, the way I got through school and my degree and my masters is wait until deadline day approaches, and then turn up the effort. So I'm gonna do them tonight. I've done some actually today at work.
Okay, that's cool.
I've done some good ones. Don't you worry.
I'm looking for. I was writing my own questions and I thought I know the answers to them. You know, when you get interviewed, Jay,
Yeah.
like people ask you the same questions over and over again.
But I'm a bit nervous now
Why?
because it's like 120. It's
120
a big crowd.
people, and they're all book people as well.
That's what I mean. So, I mean, to be honest with you, you're saying it's like me and you. It's you, innit? I'm just the.
Well, if it wasn't for you, Jay, this book wouldn't be possible.
Oh, he's too kind to me now.
It's true, man. As much as you were saying I was your life coach, you've been a fucking inspiration to me from the 20 years that I've known you.
You're too kind to me. You're a good guy, but I don't care. I'm gonna say I'm very, very proud of you, bro. This book is amazing. I'm that proud. I'm actually jealous because I'm reading it and I'm like, he's such a good writer, and it paints a real story of Manchester from the people and Mancunians, from people that obviously have lived it, and it's just a great read. It really is, and it takes me back. It really does. And Manchester is a fascinating city, and it's good to see someone who's capable of writing about the people from Manchester as well, and such an interesting era as well.
I was amazed that nobody actually tapped into it though, that nobody actually discussed. It's a bit of context. It starts after the Hacienda was just sort of closing, and everyone just talks about the Hacienda years. And obviously, me and Jay, I think you went once, didn't you, Jay? But like,
crap, expensive ice lollies.
Yeah. So anyone from the outside world was thinking that there was no nightlife or world going on. So I mean, Jay shares several anecdotes in the book, which are hilarious and worrying, Laura. So best of luck when you get to them pages in the in the book. But yeah, there's a cracking one where he was in Bowlers and he met the Spice Girls. I'll just leave it at that. You want to hear the rest of that story? Or Jay and the Spice Girls. You need to pick this up. It's available in all. You're supposed to put the click on me, Jay. Well
Thank
done.
you.
It's available in all good bookstores tomorrow. Or if you wait till Christmas, you might be able to catch up with WH Smith for £1 in the book.
Not a chance.
No.
Hey, be worth more by then. We've got a load of comments. Jim Max says, true story. Bed-sitting, Chapeltown, Leeds. Ooh.
He played them when as a footballer.
Yeah.
I played against Chapeltown.
Okay.
And I think it was like some sort of cross-region cup competition when we were like 16, 17. And it kicked off. And then that team got kicked out of the league. Yeah, it's just like... Because I think Chapeltown, or them lot, seemed a lot more sort of public schoolboy. It might be a bit different now. But the team we were playing, and it's sort of looking down their nose at us. And the first game, they absolutely trounced us. So we spent a lot of the season when we played them again to sort of to actually spank them. And they were going to batter us again, so we actually ended up battering them. Like there was honestly, people literally brought like weapons onto the pitch and stuff. It was a proper football factory. I'm pretty sure it was in the evening news.
Yeah, that is setting some great examples.
Well, have you ever found a dead body?
I'm trying to think. No, I don't think I have. And I've been in some dodgy places during my travels and travails, but I don't think I've ever.
Have you you've never seen anyone outside of the hospital who's brown bread?
Did I tell you about the time outside Morrison's?
No.
And this wasn't that long ago. It was about a year ago. And I was at Morrison's. I don't mind pointing there. at Piccadilly. I was walking sort of down the street to Morrison's. And there's a guy outside Morrison's, and he looks homeless. But he's sort of face down in the entrance, outside the entrance, not moving, and as far as I could see, not breathing. And people just sort of stepping over him to get into Morrison's. Now, you know me, Scott, I'm not a grass. But I saw two coppers and I was like, do you want to check if this guy's alright? Is he alive? Because he might be dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know everyone's assuming he's just some spice head who's just had one too many or whatever. But it's worth looking into before everyone just steps over a corpse to go and get the lunchtime sarnies. So yeah, I don't think it was a dead body, but it was a bit worrying the way that we sort of just become normalised to it. Do you know what I mean?
It's scary. I mean, the closest I've actually seen to it being not someone that I know was dead was the day after the Manchester Arena bomb, and I was walking through Hyde, and this guy of a size, proper red face, Alan Brazil, like that sort of ilk of person, he sort of leaned on the barrier that you have at the road barrier between, so obviously the cars can't crash in. I'm looking at him and his face is just going continually red and red, and he falls to the floor, and I'm rough as fuck, like I was hungover to shit, and it starts doing this death rattle, and then someone else runs over to him and starts trying to do the CPR and put it all on, and my head just went like, because I've never done that at that point. I'd never done any sort of CPR, so I didn't know what the hell to do. And you just sort of seeing this guy, you know, the noise, that sort of noise that he's trying to like get breath, and the ambulance came and stuff. But I still to this day don't know whether they made it or not. But it completely, like, just you could see life sort of being sucked out of him one way or another. It was fucking horrendous.
I can't imagine it. That sounds horrific.
Yeah, it was.
You know,
it was. That was obviously the arena bomb the day before as well, and then it was the final one. It was that day. Was it the day after the bomb or the day?
I think it was 2 days after.
2 days after the bomb,
because I went
was
to
Sunday night.
Sorry.
The bomb was Sunday
Monday
night.
Monday night. The bomb.
Yeah.
I think the game was Wednesday, was it?
Yeah.
So the arena attack was the 22nd of May, and I think the Europa League final. In fact, I'll double check. I think the Europa League final was the 24th. Let me just double check that. Sorry. Because I was working in the radio. Yeah, it was the 24th. So I sort of covered some of the aftermath in the morning of the arena attack. Was at South GMP at like 6 a.m. for the announcement. And then we'd had this plan that I was going to go to Stockholm and cover it, you know, the fans and everything. It was going to be this sort of jovial, light-hearted, happy piece. Went to Stockholm, covered it, but it was the only time. I mean, it's like the opposite of what we're going to see the 3rd of June when we play City in the final. But I was getting messages off even City fans saying, you know, good luck for, you know, like, do it for Manchester kind of thing, or, you know, everyone coming together in a way, and very emotional. We had the minute silence. That didn't actually work, if you remember, in Stockholm. It kind of, not that anyone disrespecting it, something went on where I think there was a bit of confusion. Yeah. But anyway, United won. Ajax didn't turn up, and then it was weird. It was a very sort of eerie feeling. I remember speaking to people before the game, and they were like, they felt almost guilty for going. Yeah. Because it's like you're leaving people behind who are. It was
I mean, having seen United lift many a trophy over the years, in sort of the days after them winning the Europa, it just felt flat, didn't it? As it should, really, because when it puts everything in sort of, you know, context.
It was a nice sort of moment, and a sort of, you know, trying to think of the right words, but you know, like, it was like gave everyone a little bit of something, like, you know what, great, this has happened, this is a nice moment. But then it's like, now we're back to sort of reflecting and grieving still, because obviously you're not over what's gone on after 2 days. And I felt that the game, then also the One Love concert, these little moments that helped Manchester get through it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I think there was loads of different sort of moments, and one of the moments that stuck out for me was the copper with the kids doing Ringa Ringa Roses. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because it was weird, because you walk through Manchester and obviously you got armed police everywhere, kids saying what's going on here, kids struggling to sort of realise what had gone on, and it was just a weird time. But yeah, there's always with Manchester, people just came together, and the communities came together stronger than ever, and I think that's testament to Mancunians, and also not just Mancunians as well, but people from all over sort of got it. And it's not just, obviously it happened in Manchester, but it affected everyone. And, you know, there was a lot of love from all over.
What have you made to the aftermath of it all then, Jay, in terms of the sort of, I'll have to be careful what I say here, but the sort of, when the police and the security emergency services saying that they could have done more to either stop the person who did it, or like the fire services could have reacted quicker to the scene. And they're taking them to court, aren't they, from what I hear?
Yeah. There was, because I still speak to some of the victims' families. Because I interviewed him just around that time, and I'm still in touch with a couple of people. Just not majorly, but drop a message on the anniversary or whatever, as you do. And I think they're still hurting, obviously. Yeah. And you want answers. Then when you find out the answers, sometimes it's not the answer you want, because it's like, if this had have happened, if we'd have done this, your loved one would still be here. Yeah. And I can't imagine what it's like. I can't imagine how you hear that and you learn that. And I think I know from you mentioned the fire service, I think there was emergency services who wanted to get into the arena and help, but weren't allowed to, were sort of ordered not to. And then there was a sort of bit of confusion, or for whatever reason they weren't allowed to. There was, when I want to be careful because I've not read the inquiry fully. I'm not au fait with it all, so I don't want to get things overly wrong. But from what I gather, there was someone who pointed out the bomber. I know his name. I'm not going to say it. And pointed him out to security and said there's something not right about this guy, because he's lingering around with this bag on his back, and he just looks out of his place, and that wasn't acted upon. And there's little, when you look back, you think that could have happened, that could have prevented it, that could have prevented it.
You just imagine the families just want when we have these sort of inquiries, any sort of I don't know, to try and put everything at rest somewhat, is that you expect everything to be as good, as proper as it was, as it should have been. There shouldn't be like a category of errors.
There was one, John Atkinson, I thought that was his name. Was just, I think the inquiry found that he could have survived if he'd have got the emergency response that he should have got, but there was flaws in it. And I think just one thing I will say, and I'm not trying to make excuses, obviously something like this you can prepare or whatever, but it's people can't believe what's happening, and there's going to be difficulties. There's an emotional side of it. If you're working in emergency services or organising things, it's like, how do we cope with this? But there should have been a better response. I think the inquiry's found that, and when you've lost someone and you get told that if it weren't for the flaws in the emergency response, your loved one, especially the case of John Atkinson, which I think they said, he would have survived, or he could have survived. You can never be certain, but there was a good chance he would have. That's got to be tough to say, and I feel for those people, because it's horrible. One thing I remember as well, we'll just mention this before we move on, unless you obviously want to add anything. I remember doing an interview with Canadian TV the day after it happened, and they were like, "Oh well, you must be really angry, and there must be a lot of division now, and people in Manchester must be turning on the Muslim community." I was like, "No, what are you on about? It's not that community, it's this person. And we're not all turning on each other. We're coming together. We're grieving together, and we're trying to come to terms with it together." And it was like, well, let's not go down that silly route.
Yeah, that was happening. Such. I mean, that was similar to me when I got phone calls from Danish news asking very similar questions, like, who do you think did it? I'm like, who am I, Poirot?
Yeah.
Like how on earth am I supposed to know who did it? But in terms of the sort of the response, there was a minimal thing, wasn't there, about the mosque in Didsbury. But by and large, everybody, regardless of colour, creed and everything like that, just came together for what was definitely the darkest day in Manchester's history in my lifetime anyway.
It was, and I remember sort of for Key doing a thing on the IRA bomb in '96 on the anniversary. And I think someone said, I know it's different because there was no fatalities on the day, although I think someone died from cancer from asbestos.
Yeah.
I read that in your book.
Yeah.
But, that moment, it's the aftermath and the reaction that sort of you can look at and say that's what Manchester's about. Not some evil scumbag who carries out something to, make a name for himself. And I don't buy into this thing that he was, I don't know, whatever. But that isn't it. It's the response to the community, the way we come together, the way we sort of show what we're about. And we've done that. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of is what makes me proud to call Manchester my home, to be honest with you. That took a turn, didn't it, bro? I thought we were talking about Victor Lindelof a minute ago. And his games, and then
funny where our conversation.
And then next thing you know, we're talking about Chapel Town, and then we end up on the arena attack. But obviously,
and this is when we're sober. Imagine what our conversations were like if anyone recorded them. I put them on camera back in the day.
No, we won't be sat here.
No,
not a chance.
Live from Strange Ways.
Live from Ramptons. Is that still a thing? Never mind Strange Ways. That'd be an upgrade. Miss Man United, my better half again. She's made a good point here, Scotty. She does it at least annually.
She make a good point.
Yeah. Scotty, how long have you known Jay? Have you prepped? Is such a stupid question to ask him.
Yes, I know, but I love
hope springs eternal, doesn't it?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. To be fair.
You've never let me down, though. 20 years. I don't think you have.
Do you know what? I don't think we have.
We've never fell out with each other.
No, you tried to wind me up once in Mali. You wound me up once, didn't you? And you picked the wrong day, because you picked the day where I could actually remember the night before when you pretended I'd done something.
Of all the days when...
The other days, you could have picked any other day when we was in Malia to have a go at me in front of everyone, pretending that I'd had a go at you the night before, and you would have got away with it. Yeah. But I thought you'd lost the plot, because I remember the night before watching the Lennox-Lewis-Klitschko fight.
Yeah.
Jim Mack says Chapel Town was a no-go area. Chapel Alteration was posh.
Might be them.
Yeah. And do you know what's pretty... I know this is a bit grim, innit? It's a bit horrible, this, what I'm talking about. But Chapel Town, I always associate with the Yorkshire Ripper. As one of, which isn't obviously the way you want to be remembered. David Baird says, heading to OT for the Villa game with my son this weekend. We're coming from Belfast. Any news on what the protest will be like? There is a protest planned ahead of the Villa game. I think it's 11 o'clock at Deansgate. It starts. And then people going down to the ground, and then there's talk of, I think it's the first 18 minutes of boycotting the first 18 minutes of the game. This is being run by the 1958 group. Go and have a look on their socials. If you put 1958 into Twitter, you'll see them. And there's some details there, because there's obviously this talk in there of maybe the Glazers are going to have is it a minority sale or something? That's... that says it all, really, and I think the response is going to be biblical on that one. I feel like I'm just...
You having a banner with your missus?
No, she's made a point here.
All right.
Never mind Lindelof. It's all about... Oh, good to see John Shin as well. She said it's all about Weggy. What let's talk about this, we've got a new segment on here. We did it last week. Sort of unsung heroes from the week, the previous week. Vote Weghorst. Discuss.
Is it Vote Weghorst? That sounds like some sort of political campaign.
Yeah, vote Weghorst for a brighter, greener future.
Yeah. The man's come for a hell of a lot of stick. Obviously, no one expected to be signing a player from Burnley that was on loan in Turkey when it came to January. I mean, we should know better with the Glazers being in charge at Manchester United that they were going shopping in a charity shop instead of going bloody the best places in Europe to get a new striker. He's not a very good striker, but he's become a bit of a cult hero. I was nervous as hell because it felt like the writing was on the wall yesterday when he stepped up for his penalty. But fair play to him, man, and he scored. And I thought when he came on, I think Joe Smith and Joe McGrath were sort of looking at me like a weirdo yesterday when I said, we ought to bring Wout on because Martial's offering absolutely nothing. And I'd rather Wout, even though he's not going to score, get in between the players and just cause a little bit of a problem. And he did that, and I thought he ran his socks off. And then there was that beautiful moment at the end when United had won, and the players were all staying together, and he legged it towards the United fans at Wembley. I mean, that's a testament to a player. He's only been there, 4 months?
Yeah, he has. You're right, and that's 2 good performances he's put on that Wembley pitch in a red shirt now, or a United shirt. And I agree with you. Martial, for whatever reason, just wasn't in the game at all. Wasn't getting on the end of anything, really. Wasn't causing any issues. Wout came on, pressed, hustled, caused a bit of aggy, and was just... You could see the Brighton players... You can see players just like, well, he just sod off.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Let me just control this ball and pass to someone without you breathing down my neck. And he was on it. And I thought your boy as well was when he came on, Fred. The energy levels increased. And I was saying the same as you. I was there behind the goal with the United fans. And Weghorst was warming up, for ages. And I'm saying, I'm not lying, lie, because I've criticised him, not because I don't think he tries or anything, but I've criticised not him as such, but the fact that we had to rely on his free signing from Burnley. It wasn't even, Burnley didn't even want him. They'd loaned him out to the Sixers. In January, when we were fighting on 4 fronts, I thought we should have spent money. And the Glazers was like, nah, you can have a free transfer or a loan for, obviously, Sabitzer. So it wasn't good enough, but he came on. I was like, we need to get him on because he'll at least show a bit of effort. And he did that and took his penalty well. I've been told, I've still not seen it. I didn't watch any of the penalties at the time. I was facing the other way. Someone messaged me and went, I thought it was a load of nonsense that you didn't watch penalties, but I was in the away end, and I was in United, and I saw you facing the other way. I'm glad the penalties were down our end, because you probably would have seen me on the telly. And I would have just got penalties, and I just couldn't believe that. But yeah, I can't be watching penalties. But every time someone steps up for United, I thought they were going to miss.
Yeah.
I did. I thought, if I go, and I said to my pal Woody, who was next to me, I said, I'd be gutted if he misses, because he's had a good game, but all anyone will talk about is he's missed a penalty. And then, Sancho thought, if he misses now after the game he had against Sevilla, that could be it. Do you know what I mean? I know it sounds melodramatic, but you just fear the worst, don't you?
I had a bit of a... Andy Tate was having a bit of a tantrum behind the TV at the watch-along yesterday, and stormed off when Sancho was about to take his penalty, and... wasn't really
stormed off.
He stormed off from where you are now into that room.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Sancho, like really kicking off. And I turned around to Ronaldo and I said, how old is he? Like, and then pure people started messaging me today, like, well done on calling Andy Tate out. I like Andy, but he was just very melodramatic about certain things. But yeah, I was happy for Sancho, and that was probably the best penalty that United took yesterday. I
might watch it, actually. Now I know the outcome, I can watch him. I'm not against watching him. I've watched John Terry's loads, and I missed it in 2008. I think I'd run off down the road from the pub at that time, and I had to come back. So yeah, from what I gather, I've seen Sancho and Rashford's, because I saw it on Twitter. They're very similar, weren't they? Very similar penalties, and good to see them scoring, and on the Wembley pitch where people were giving him grief for the penalties they missed for England. Not says Jay would hide behind the door when United had a penalty during paddock watch-alongs in the old studio design. Yeah, we used to have the door, because we were so clever with our studio design. We'd filmed into the door. Right. So, you can join a live by just coming into the studio straight away. You're on a live video, which is great. Yeah. And I used to hide behind the door and then pop out. Because we had a great record as well. We scored Bruno scored about 15 on the spin or something stupid, didn't he? Yeah. And then it all started going a bit.
We only won 2 in the last 9 or something like that. Penalty shootouts United. I might be 3 and 10 after yesterday.
Do you know? I know the last one was, I think, Rochdale.
Was it Rochdale?
We beat Rochdale, didn't we?
Borough beat us last year, didn't they?
Yeah, Borough beat us. Villarreal. What else? There's others I can't remember. I mean, it's weird as well, isn't it? Because David De Gea, who's such, a well-known shot stopper,
his record
doesn't save penalties ever.
No.
What is?
He played well yesterday, to be fair, De Gea.
Yeah.
I thought he had some really good saves yesterday when he needed to.
Yeah, there was a couple of times when he did. I don't want to dig him out because he did play well, but there was a couple of times his passing was a bit off. And the weird thing was, I was saying to Steve on the Paddock podcast, I was watching him before the game, practicing his kicking, and it was men. Yeah. He had, on the halfway line, 2 goalkeepers or 2 goalkeeping coaches, and he was pinging these balls to him. Like 70-yard
not
passes.
Under pressure though, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, great. Stefan Showers says, what is Jay doing at the producer desk?
A very good job is what Jay is doing at the producer desk. A very good job, because producer James is not here tonight. He might be back. We'll have to have a meeting.
King Dino says, it's a bit harsh, depends on top class. Fair enough. I can't comment because I haven't seen him, so that's, I'm not having a dig at him for not saving a penalty. It's just weird, isn't it? Because he's, keeper is obviously capable of saving shots from 12 yards, just as one of those sort of anomalies where I think he saved, is it 2 out of the last 30 or something?
Yeah, it's
really
poor, man.
Crazy.
I was the likes of people liking the video.
That's a very good point, that. We've got over 200 people watching and less than 100 likes.
What?
So in answer to your question, Scott, it's disgraceful.
Well, I can't believe, we've covered, excuses of not turning into work. We covered the Manchester bombing. We covered the FA Cup semi-final. We covered the Europa League final. What else have we done? In the space of 30 minutes.
We've
and not and not
the history
over
of
100
Chapel Town.
likes. The history of Chapel Town. You brought in the Yorkshire Ripper. Not you didn't bring him in.
No.
That'd be a bit of a weird guest.
Is he still alive?
Peter Sutcliffe, innit?
Yeah.
I reckon that'd make for a cracking documentary. You know.
Go on.
Is it Broadhurst? Where all them lot, or where?
Was it Broadmoor?
Broadmoor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where all them lot went.
Yeah. All them lot. Yeah. all them lot.
Yeah.
All the losers.
That's putting it lightly. Serial rapist, loser.
Sorry. I'm not being complimentary. All the horrible bastards.
Yeah, that's
sorry,
it.
yeah. Give him
Bit
the
more graphic.
Yeah, sorry. Losers makes it sound like they're just a bit. Do you know what I mean? Bit of a nana when they're actually vile. I put a link into our Patreon because there's extra content on our Patreon. There's a lot of extra content on our Patreon, actually.
I can't believe
I think we need to have a word with ourselves. I'm not just saying this.
How much content we're actually producing and time spending to come into the studio, to actually go home and edit it, to write it. So you get like a 3-hour radio show every week where we share some of our favourite tunes around the theme. You get a special Patreon video. We've been banging out articles, and it's for £1 a month. £1 a month. That's like 12 quid a year, if my maths is correct. Is that right? One times 12.
One time. Oh, hang on a minute. Carry the.
I'm
3.
shit at maths.
No, you're right.
Like 25p a week, I think it is as well. 25. Imagine 25p a week.
Can't even get a Freddo nowadays for 25p.
Yeah.
They're 30p.
Jay's got 3 kids to pay for. I've got 3 kids to pay for and stuff. And I know times are hard, but £1 a month for all that. I
know I'm biased, but it is good. It is really good.
The radio show is brilliant, I think.
I love that.
Really, really good.
We have a good laugh.
Tonight's one that we're going to do when James Young here isn't bringing his obscure Eastern African tracks in.
It's good though to have that bit of yin and yang because I'll pick the most obvious songs.
Yeah.
Like what was number 1 at the time, or something by the Smiths. And then James will come with like, I don't know, track 12 on. I don't know.
No, he was referring to. No, this wasn't a single. It was a deep cut. Remember? Wasn't it? You may not have heard of this because it's a deep cut on a rare vinyl that wasn't pressed in England. You can only get this record from select Belgium shop.
Yeah, I was in a record shop in Belgium.
Yeah,
and I found this this vinyl that was a limited edition. And on the B side was this track.
Yeah, hidden.
Yeah, it's like what? What are you on about? You're only 19. So yeah, we do put a lot of content on there, and obviously on the main channel you get this gold.
But there has been a lot of people
week.
sign up patrons, to be fair, after we've sort of been telling them what we've been doing more. So thank you everybody else who has joined the Patreon over the last couple of weeks. They've definitely gone up in numbers. So much appreciated all your support. As always, watching this on a Monday night, I know it looks a little bit different tonight. It feels a bit lonely actually. I put a video out before on Instagram with Celine Dion's "All by Myself." There's a big table list to fill. I need you, Jay. I need you.
Do you know what, bro? That's like, this is what I do in the morning when we do live news. Sit there on my own.
Yeah, I do feel for you, mate.
Crying.
Just looking for someone to lean on. Lean on me.
Justin Lloyd says all your content should be free. Well, Justin, I think he's got a bit of a cob on with me because I call myself Jay and my full name is Justin. It should, but then we wouldn't be able to do some of the stuff we do in the studio and some of the other stuff we do as well. So our production has gone up, and unfortunately, so have some of our costs. So
all the content should be free.
Yeah.
We don't live in like a communist world, do we? It's like we give you this for free. We don't get paid for doing any of this, and it's not like we're making a mint off a patron.
He also says electric's free. No, it's not.
It's
not free.
It is if you know a man like who drinks in the duck.
I can assure you, our electric is not free. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, it's not. I can tell you now.
What sort of outfit does he think you work out? You wired up to the.
I think he thinks we've done that thing. When you've got a grow on.
Yeah.
And you wire up your electric to someone else's.
No, I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the apparently lecky companies can get onto you. Like, why has your electric bill gone through the roof when you've got a 1-bedroom flat in Stretford or wherever.
What was his name? Justin.
Yeah.
Cheer up, lad. Fucking hell.
Santa Notch says it was free in Leningrad. Thank you, Notch. Brian Casey says only thing that's free is sunshine.
Yes, it is.
And we don't even get that every day. Right, we like to have a quirky story. Have you got one? Because I haven't.
I don't know if it's quirky or not. It sort of, I found it a bit strange. Can we go with that?
Strange and quirky.
It's political, so you'll have to give a commentary.
Now you're talking my language,
And the
brother.
thing is, I know you actually like Diane Abbott, so I'd like to get your point of view.
Yes. No, you know what? I'm glad. Go on. Give everyone a bit of context.
Okay, so she put out a letter, or a letter was released from her, was it department or her secretary or whatever, that she'd written, and on it she was saying that, let me get this right, Irish travellers and Jewish people have never experienced racism. They can't. Is that right?
Yeah.
In the same way that a black person can. And then she realised that then that got released, and then obviously there was a massive kickback, as you'd expect from that. And then her excuse was it was a first draft, and I was like, but why is that even in a first draft?
Yeah, I mean, this is really, really disappointing to me, because I think Diane Abbott had a lot of grief. I think she's been the most racially abused MP ever in terms of trolling and comments, and I think the Ford report said that she took a lot of stick, and I think gets a lot of undue stick, when she fudged the figures and stuff like that. And I used to have a bit of a thing where I hated the amount of grief she got, and it really wound me up. Well, there's no excuse for this, because you can still think Diane Abbott suffered a lot of racist abuse, which she has, suffered a lot of racism, and these comments are completely wrong and out of order. I don't want to see, and I think there's sometimes too much that goes on, is pitting minorities or groups against one another. Yeah. It's like,
we have it worse than you.
Yeah. Now, there's different types of racism. There obviously is. And there's different concerns there's different experiences that I may have than a traveller may have.
Yeah.
Both ways. Some may be beneficial to me, some may be beneficial to them. They might not get racially profiled by a police officer as much. I might not get spoken to the way they do when they go in a shop or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I'm sort of saying that we both experience racism in that, in different forms.
It's nuanced,
and the same with Judaism, the Jewish people, sorry. And as a reporter, I covered anti-Semitic attacks. And they're all horrific. But the idea that Jewish people don't experience racism is, quite frankly, preposterous and wrong. And I think she must know that. And for someone who has experienced racism to come out of these things at a time when the last thing we need right now, I mean, there's never a good time for this, but right now, when we've got so much going on in terms of people trying to almost act like racism doesn't exist, or trying to downplay it, certain sections trying to downplay it. When you're trying to build a racism hierarchy, I think it's an awful idea. Yeah. I don't like it. It's something I don't go in for. I'm never going to go to a traveller or a Jewish person or any, a person from any other background and say, my experience is worse than yours. My experience of racism is worse. It's different. Yeah. I might have been through certain things. I got racially profiled at me Mrs. Grand's funeral. Do you know what I mean? I get it. And I've had certain things, experiences throughout my life. But then I know that they'll have had experiences that I haven't had. So right now, as groups, we should be coming together and we should be saying, look, we've all suffered here. What can we do to stop it happening, or to prevent it happening to our children, and to come together? Not, my experience is different and worse than yours, and yours doesn't count. Now, I'm not saying she said those words specifically, but it felt like that was the sort of argument that she was making. And I just think that she should know better, because despite what some people may think, she's an intelligent woman. Yeah. She's a very intelligent woman.
That was far from intelligent, the letter that she put out.
And I think I'm going to, if you don't mind me wrapping up on this, Scotty. Yeah. John Shin in the chat. Good vibes, John. One of my favourite people in the world. Says, like Dave Chappelle said, us minorities shouldn't be discussing discrimination as if it's a race. It should be a discussion about unity and togetherness. And also Notch as well, and Notch has got experience of homophobia, and he's spoken about that, so you won't mind me saying that. He speaks quite openly about that, and some of the things he's gone through. And he points out some things to me when I don't notice it, and he'll go, look at this, and I'm like, yeah, he's popped up on his comments on the Brew a few times, and he made some really good points. Well, he always does. Or hierarchy of any prejudice against people for what they are, especially historically. All of it should be treated as equally wrong. I couldn't agree more. Well said, that man. Scotty.
Yep.
Can I have a review, an assessment of my performance as a producer tonight?
I would give you, if you were a United player on that performance, I would say that you are up there with the likes of Wout Weghorst yesterday, because you started a little bit shabby, Jay. You know.
Yeah, I messed up the joke we had.
The opening was a little bit James Young-esque.
Hang on a minute.
I was a bit low though, to be honest.
I played the video.
You play? Oh yeah, you did play the video. So you're already better.
And we went out on time.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop the stream.
And can people hear me?
Yep.
The mics work.
Right. I didn't stop the stream and then expect you to fix that.
Yeah.
To do something that's literally impossible.
You're not going to stand up at the outro, are you? Cut me off halfway through doing a conclusion show.
We did a video.
I love the lad, but I don't miss him.
We did the video the week, and I was editing it, and I went to edit the outro, and as Scotty's doing his outro, and we only had the wide shot as well, so there's only one shot. There's not like now where I can cut between us. He just gets up and walks off. As Scotty's
and the other day when we were doing the radio show as well, I was doing this big spiel about John Lennon, and he was going, and like this was the last big single before he died. And then getting ready to rap, and then halfway through, cuts in there like he'd not worked in radio before.
He did. And do you know what? I love your reaction. Your face is priceless, man.
I can't hide my face.
It cracks me up, man, because it's a mixture of like bewilderment, fury, and just deflation, like all in one. It's just like, what is going on? I can't cope. I'm going to kill someone. It's all those emotions in one look. It's a joy to behold. But yeah, anyway, hopefully he'll be back soon, so he'll be winding us up next week. If you want to take us out, brother.
We shall see. Yeah, so thanks everybody who's been watching tonight. Can you make sure you're hitting that like button? Jay, why did you need to hit the like button? Because I hit the algorithm and stuff. You're more clued up on this world.
I don't know. It's just what people say.
Yeah, so if you could press like, that'd be great. And if you aren't subscribing, please subscribe. Tell your friends. If you aren't like that, Justin, and you do like paying, turn it off.
No, sorry. I've done a mistake. Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh, it's all good. Harry Maguire. It was a Harry Maguire performance. What are you doing? Hang on. Can they hear me talking now?
Wait, I don't know what I've done. Hang on. We've got the intro video going in again. I don't know how to stop it. I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna.
Are we gonna come in on you or me? You.
Right. I don't know what happened then. Apologies. There you go. He's back.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
That was very James Young-esque. I don't know if you could hear us over that outro there. Thank you everybody who's persevered with this. With Jay Motti popping his production cherry there. I'm gonna have words at the end. Yeah, you laugh.
I was doing so well.
Strong words. So well. Last minute as well, man. Howler, own goal. But yeah, thank you. And if you are interested, this is out tomorrow. I would love you to get a copy. It is available all over the place. But thank you for watching. I've been Scotter.
I've been Marty, and now I'm going to get told off.
Yes, you hide your fails. Right.